Hello and welcome to part 2 of Build the U.S.S. Missouri. This is an all-metal kit by Piececool. Now I've got to be honest and say, my own arrogance led me to believe that I could build this model kit, and I've got to tell you, this is the most complex, hardest model kit I've ever built. It's been 30 or more years since I last built a complex model kit, and I just naturally assumed that I could had the skills to do it. Like once you've ridden a bike, you can always ride a bike, you just pick it up. And I got that very badly wrong. In part 1 I made some terrible mistakes, and I made even worse mistakes trying to correct my mistakes. However, in this part we start with me cleaning up and actually putting my mistakes right, and then continuing with the build. So I hope you enjoy it. What I'm actually using here is acetone to remove the super glue. I'm soaking a cotton bud in it and working it into the acetone and then picking it apart with a cocktail stick. It's very time consuming and very picky work because you have to thoroughly saturate the super glue each time to get it to melt just a little bit, so to speak. Now I'm using what I should have used in the first place to make the repair. It's a UV cured resin, and unlike super glue, it doesn't stick everything to everything else, just what you want it to stick to, and it's very, very manoeuvrable until it's cured under UV light. It takes about a minute to cure until it's hard under this 10-watt UV torch. It cures clear. Once I'm happy with how the resin is cured, I completely harden it under this 20-watt UV light. This is actually a nail polish hardener that's used in beauty salons and nail bars for hardening UV paint on nails, but it works fantastic for hardening UV cured resin. That's it, all finally cleaned up and fully repaired, and the mess that I made completely cleaned up. Now I can carry on with building it. At this point the instructions called for one of the small parts that I'd made right back at the beginning in stage 1 or 2, tiny little part. So I looked in my case where I kept all the little parts that I made, and I couldn't find this little part anywhere. I looked everywhere for it and I just couldn't find it. And what's more, I was completely mystified as how I could have lost it, because I was so careful with these parts. I'd make them and then put them straight into this plastic case. At this point in building the superstructure, I'm using a lot of the small parts that I made right back at the beginning. I can't stress this enough. When you start making these small parts, look after them, take care of what you do with them, because I'm still completely baffled as to where the ones that I made earlier had gone. I'd got most of them except these 2 crucial bits that I couldn't find anywhere. Now we're at a bit that I like. I enjoy the larger bits much more than I do the fiddly little bits. This is a piece of the upper deck that I'm just cutting out and bending. The small fiddly bits, again, I can't stress this often enough, they're for a much younger, more agile person, I think. What I didn't know at the time was I was just about to make another mistake, and this strip that I'm cutting off, I'm just about to attach it to the wrong side of this deck. This will come back and haunt me a bit later on. Now I'm getting to build the superstructure and I can see it coming along. I'm really getting to enjoy this part because I can actually see some benefit to all the hard work I did earlier. Having the sheet that tells you where to find the parts on each sprue, I suppose they're called the metal bits, having the parts all coloured in different colours actually makes it very easy to find them, and that's one thing that I really like about this kit. We're back to making more fiddly bits again. This is the only part that I really hate, and it's getting even more awkward with gloves on. But what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I'm putting them away in the little compartments in my storage box. I'm checking and I'm double checking to make sure that they are there so that I don't lose them for when I need them later on. Starting to see the upper structure, the upper superstructure, starting to take a shape now, and it's starting to look like something I recognise, and I'm getting a sense of satisfaction out of that, even though it's been a good 3 or 4 hours hard work to get this far in this part of the video. It was at this point that I suddenly realised that the last piece that I assembled I'd put on the wrong side of the boat. So I had to Mickey Mouse this side as well to get it put right. I keep making mistakes. This is such a complex kit. So, to make the piece fit that I put on the wrong way, I decided to bend it to make it fit, and then I broke it. Again, I've broken it again. I don't believe how many times I've broken things on this model. So, I learned my lesson about super glue, so what I decided to do this time was follow the maker's recommended instructions, which was to use sellotape to hold it together. So that's what I decided to do. It seemed like a good plan at the time. By now I was getting a bit fed up with wearing gloves, so I decided that I'd take them off, because working with the little fiddly bits, I really couldn't use the gloves anymore and they were getting on my nerves, so off with the gloves. I struggled to get this bit of the superstructure on, but I couldn't because it was such a tight fit, and I've got fat fingers and my eyesight isn't what it used to be, so I had to deploy the big 25 times magnifier just to be able to see what I was doing to get in there. Again, I stress this is such a complicated kit that I would not recommend it for a beginner like I was. Just after I started this kit, I realised there were going to be some of the tabs when I twisted to bend them that I wasn't going to be able to get into with ordinary pliers. So I got myself a set of long nose pliers as well as the Piececool toolkit. I can't recommend that enough. You need some long nose pliers because some of those tabs, the gaps that you have to get into are really tight. And the Piececool tool with the grip, with the slot on the end to allow you to twist the tabs is a useful investment. Just when I thought I'd come to the end of the small fiddly bits, I get some more small fiddly bits to do. That's been the overriding thing of this kit, that there are small fiddly bits, lots and lots of small fiddly bits. And just when you think you've got rid of all the small fiddly bits, along come more small fiddly bits for you to break and lose, as I did on a regular basis. I'm sorry I'm laughing now because I did start this out to be quite serious, but I've made so many mistakes now, it's embarrassing, and all I can do is laugh at them. You remember I said that I'd fixed it according to the manufacturer's instructions with sellotape the last time I broke it? That didn't work. That really didn't work. It just kept falling off. So it was a case of reaching for the UV resin again. So this kit requires no glue. I've had to use a lot of gluing substances on it. And yet again, I've broken another piece. This time I'm not going to do anything other than reach for the UV resin to fix it. The UV resin is my standby. I love UV resin. It dries clear and it doesn't dry instantly. It takes about a minute to set, so you can move things into their final places, and it dries clear, leaving an invisible finish. That's why I like it. And I've broken another bit. Let's reach for the glue again. At the start of part 2, this part, I said that I'd lost a bit that I'd made in part 1. One of the very first parts that I'd made, I'd lost it. Then I made the most amazing discovery. I hadn't lost it at all. I hadn't actually made it. When I was looking for a part of the build that I was at right now, I looked down at the sheet and I thought, hang on, that looks like the bit that I've lost. And I looked again, and it was. I double checked with the instructions and I saw what I did. It said that I actually had to make 4 of them, but I only made 1 of them. And I thought, wow, I can't believe that. I've actually found a bit that I've lost. So I went back and I started making the bits that I hadn't made before so that I could put them on. And I started to feel a lot happier about the model by this time. Even though I'd made a few mistakes, it didn't miss some important bits. So I was feeling good about it now. Just for a change, I've broken another bit and I'm having to reach for the glue again. It's I should have started on a much simpler model. I know this, I should have started on a much simpler one, but I'm having fun. That's the important thing. I'm having fun, so I'm still enjoying it. Some of these bits are so tiny, so tiny. This one that I'm doing now is 0.5 millimetre across. It's so tiny, I really struggle to see it. And if you just bend it just slightly too much, they will break. And I'm reaching for the glue more often now as I get to really small fiddly bits, but I'm still enjoying it, although I don't know if anybody could actually build this kit without breaking some of the bits. I think it's almost an impossibility. But I wish you luck and have fun with it. I'm still having fun with it. It's been great and it's a learning experience, but learn from my experience. The bits are really small and they break very easily. As we are getting into the build more, I can see the superstructure starting to really come together, the upper superstructure, and it's really starting to look like a ship. So I'm really starting to get into this. I'm really starting to enjoy it now. It's becoming more recognisable, and hopefully no more fiddly bits. Did I really say no more fiddly bits? Well, I got that wrong, didn't I? Because I got more fiddly bits. Doing the barrels for the guns is an absolute nightmare. There's a tiny little clip, very tiny little clip, about 1 millimetre square, that's used to hold the barrel onto the turret. And on this first one, I just couldn't do it. I had to reach for the resin. It was an absolute nightmare. There was too small and too fiddly. I just couldn't get in there. So once again, the resin to the rescue. So this no glue required, it's baffled me. We're finally coming to the end of part 2, and as I keep saying, this has been the most complicated model build I've ever done. I started this on January the 1st, 2022. It's now the 1st of March 2022, so it's taken me 2 months to get this far. Altogether nearly 14 hours work, and I'm just about 3/4 of the way through building it. I've got most of the upper superstructure done, and I've started on the turrets, and I've just started cutting out and building the main deck. I've still got a little bit more work to do, but as I say, I'm about 25% of the way through. I should have looked at the difficulty and the level of the model before I started, because it's a level 6 model, and I just had no idea how complicated it was, and there are just so many small parts. It's infuriating. I can't believe how many times I've broken it and how many times I've reached for the UV resin to fix it, but that's a learning process. I do have other Piececool models to build, none of them as complicated as this one. So it's been an experience, and altogether I'm enjoying it. Now it's really starting to come together. I'm really starting to enjoy it, but I think definitely for somebody that's got younger, and definitely that's somebody with a bit more dexterity than me, and certainly not something that any beginner should try. But I like the idea of it, and the detail of it is absolutely fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing it when it's fully built, even though, as I say, it's coming together quite nicely now, and I'm quite impressed with it. So hopefully it'll be less than a month before I've finished, and we should finish it in part 3. So please like and subscribe for part 3, which I'm going to start this weekend. Bye.